Hey, how's it going, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. So it's been a couple weeks since actually maybe a couple months since I purchased the Parrot Anafi drone. And what I wanted to do in this video is give you kind of an in-depth review and I guess tutorial or instructions or some kind of information on what this drone can actually do, what the software can do. I got to kind of rush through this right now because I don't know how, but my controller's down to 4%. I forgot to charge it. So I got the screen recording right now, and I wanted to show you what the actual Anafi's software can do and what the drone can do. Before you go out and purchase this, I know when I did it, I went online looking for videos to tell me what the drone could actually do, and I found the basics. I found whatever I could find in the manual or in the I guess the advertisements online, but no one actually kind of went into depth of what the actual drone could do. So let's go through that really quickly. I got the screen recording, and you can see actually the ecosystem, or actually the software and how it works, and what you actually get out of the drone. So first off, I am using Parrot's Free Flight 6 application. Right now, if you wanted to get the follow me or waypoints, it only costs 99 cents. In the beginning, I understand that those were costing $30. So at 99 cents is actually a great deal, because for $30 additional for both of those, you're talking $60. That adds to the cost of the drone overall. This is probably one of the cheapest drones you can find right now that is totally capable, in my opinion, of return to home and camera features, and some of the autonomy of drone piloting. When you look at anything that could do what this drone could do, you're looking at probably the Altel Evo next at $1,000, and then you're looking at the DJI Mavic series drones at like $1,200 to $1,600 plus. So I think I paid around $550 for the drone itself. I added $100 in for another battery. So what you're getting for that is a pretty capable drone for less than $1,000. Now there are other drones out there less than $1,000. You got some of the Mi drones, like the Xiaomi or the Mi Fimi. The XD, I understand, can record 4K up to 60 megabits per second. Never tried it, haven't seen it, but I would rather buy something that's a little bit more supported, and I guess a little bit more brand name before I go out and spend almost the same amount for a drone that I have to get from overseas, and I have the support or ability to get repaired if I had to. So I am down to 3% on my controller. I forgot to charge the controller, so hopefully I can get through this really quickly to show you what this drone can do, or at least the features on the controller. So first screen here, what you see is on the left side, you see the gallery. Of course, you can go into that to get to all the videos that you shot, either from the phone that are stored on your phone or that are stored on the SD card in the actual Anafi drone. The Anafi does not come with onboard memory. It comes with a 16 gigabyte card. If you're recording 4K at 30 megabits per second, that's going to be about gigabyte per minute. So if you plan on doing a lot of 4K video, go out and buy yourself a bigger card, or a card that holds more, that has bigger storage. In the middle, you have load map, and that's going to be for your waypoints planning. So if you want to go out and plan some waypoints on, let's say you're going out to a park and you know, man, I got a text here. If you go out and you're going to go to a park and you know where you want to fly, you can plan waypoints and have the drone fly autonomously and look at certain points of interest in that. And to the right of that, you have the in-app shop. So originally, when you bought this drone, you had to spend $30 extra for both the Follow Me and the waypoints planning. So that's an additional $60 to the cost of the drone. A lot of people were kind of upset about that because, you know, while the drone was kind of advertised relatively low, you're looking at adding another $60 to it, which took the price back up. Another thing about the drone is the batteries are about $99 right now. Now, I looked online, and that's at Best Buy. I looked online, and some of these batteries are going for, like I saw some coming from China, which usually you get better deals for like 120 bucks. So that was also one of the downsides about the Anafi, is that the battery cost was a little bit expensive. But I got $99, and the flight time on the drone being about 27 minutes, 2 batteries should be enough. I always recommend getting 2 batteries, especially if you're a new pilot, because you're going to be out there trying to fly around and find things rather than already know what you want to shoot and get up for 2 minutes and come back down and get a day's worth of footage out of 1 battery. So let's actually go into the fly section of the drone. I'm down to 3% on this, and the reason that it's actually down to 3% probably is because the controller charges my phone. It charges Android phones. That was a similar, I guess, problem or issue with the DJI drones. If you're using an Android phone, your controller will charge your phone, which takes away from the power of the controller. When I look in the information about this drone, I thought it said you got like 5 or 6 hours if you're using an iPhone versus only 2 hours if you're using an Android phone, because it's constantly charging the phone. And right now I got the Galaxy S10 Plus, so you know this thing's got a big battery on it, so it's sucking the juice out of this. So I'm going to try to get through this before the actual controller shuts off. Across the top, you have your normal, I guess, telemetry. You got how far you are away, height and distance out. In the center, you have the ability to tap the screen and do a hand launch. or take off from the ground. The reason it says hand launch is because I have the drone actually sitting on my lap. Cool thing about the Anafi is if you're in an area where you can't take off from the ground, like right now, I'm in a grassy area and the legs on this are kind of short, and the fan gets all clogged up when I try to sit it level on the ground, you could take this into a hand launch with it. To the right of that, you have the controller power. As you can see, it's at 3%. You got your GPS telling you that you have a GPS signal from your phone to the controller. And then to the right of that, you have your Wi-Fi signal. I'm in a pretty densely populated area here, so that Wi-Fi signal is probably going to be pretty weak if I try to fly. To the right of that, you have the 91% of my battery of my drone, and to the right of that, you got your GPS. Now we're going to click on the GPS, and that's going to give me another additional screen. It's going to tell me some information that you want to know before you take off. It tells you, you're able to calibrate your camera from here or calibrate your drone. But if you look on the left side of the screen, you have things on the drone that you want to check to make sure everything's good. What I can see is that my camera's not locked up, it's in the green. All my motors are good, they're in the green, and it's showing me I got 16 satellites, which is going to give me a decent lock so I can do a return to home without any worries. And then you give your battery again of 91%. It also gives you your firmware version. You see that I'm on the latest firmware version, and it shows you a Google map of where you're currently located. If you want to know the status of your drone, that's where you go. Now, if we go to the right of that, we go into the settings. And in the settings, what I like about the Anafi drone is that it is pretty simple. It's not like the DJI drones where you need to be a freaking engineer to figure out how to program or set up this drone. Pretty simple. A couple clicks, it's yes or no, one or two things that you got to turn on, and then you're ready to fly. So in the first one, you have your interface, and what the interface does is it programs, or it changes the way that the controller works for both the physical controller and the cell phone control. Most people fly as a default. That's mode 2. If you're into RC, or mode 2 means that the throttle or the up and down is on the left side, and your yaw, pitch, and roll, the directions are on the right side. And you can switch to special, which is going to be mode 1, which kind of reverses that. Now you have a mixture of things which you really don't want to get into unless you want to retrain yourself on how to fly. Short story, I did that when I got into remote control helicopters, and I programmed my helicopter backwards, know how to fly it backwards, and then when I tried to fly it the way that it was supposed to be set up, it took me months to figure out how to reprogram myself how to fly. So let's go to the next one. You're going to go to piloting. Piloting is very cool. So piloting is the ability to change two different types of flight modes. You have your film mode, which you're going to be able to change the film mode to get those slow, smooth cinematics. I usually turn this thing way down. In fact, it's turned down so much that when I'm doing a pirouette, that you could watch the minute hand on your watch move faster than this drone will move, because I want it to do a very, very slow pan to the right or left. I also turn down the movement of the drone, so when I move, I don't get those jerky movements. What I see a lot of new pilots doing when I watch your videos is you also, you kind of give me vertigo because you're doing a lot of movement. You're up and it's pretty cool, and when you edit, you don't have those long periods of time where you can get that smooth transition or that smooth forward flight, because you're constantly up moving around. You're going left, right, up, down, fast, back, and it kind of makes me a little bit dizzy. So what you want to do is you want to slow everything down. You want to shoot 1 or 2 seconds of smooth video. So you want to do a fly forward. You want to do a side pan. You want to do a backward reveal, and then when you edit those down, if you stop and start the recording as you do those things, that's a lot less editing you have to do. You just take those and stitch them together. You can even do it on your phone, and you'll have an awesome video. The second option in this is sport mode. Now, sport mode, if you turn that all the way up, this little thing is a rocket. To be so small and so light, this thing can move. I don't put sport mode in super fast because I don't want to fly the drone super fast. I want to fly it faster but still controllable. So I usually put sport mode on when I want to do something like chase someone on a bike or chase someone on a skateboard, or maybe even possibly try to chase someone on a car. I want to keep up with something that's moving 25, 30 miles an hour or faster. But it also makes, again, those camera moves very jerky, and when you do turns, with this not having a 3-axis stabilizer, only a 2, and the left-right is stabilized with digital stabilization, you get that motion blur, or where it's the lag where it's trying to keep up with it. So I keep everything dialed way down on film mode, and then I turn it up just a little bit so I can do a pirouette without waiting 5 minutes to get back to me, or turn the drone to follow some different direction if I want to. So very cool that you have 2 different flight modes there. If you're a new pilot, you can tweak that to just the way you want. On my film mode, if I want to do an orbit, I got it dialed in just so I can bang both of these sticks to the left or in or out, and it will do the orbit without me having to chase the tail, as they would say in airplanes or a remote control helicopter. The next one down is your safety. Safety, basically standard safety. You have the altitude distance. I'm getting eaten up by flies here. You get your altitude, you got your max distance, you have a geofence, which if you're a new pilot will allow you, and that for some reason, oh, it's not on right now, it was on the last time I tried it. A geofence will put like a 90-foot perimeter around you, and when that drone hits that wall, it'll stop, so that you'll be, if you have a small area like I'm in right now and you just want to get your piloting skills up, you know you won't hit a tree if you keep it into the 50-90 foot range, and it will stop before it hits that tree, and then you can get your skills down and fly around without worrying about it hitting anything, flying forward, backward, unless there's something within that 90-foot perimeter. And then you have your max altitude return to home. So if you want to do a return to home, usually I generally set that probably as high as I want to go. You want to set that pretty high, because if you're in an area like I'm in right now, across the street over there's a cell phone antenna that's probably on a hill, so that's probably 300 feet above the ground that I took off from. So I set it to the maximum. But the thing about return to home altitude being so high that if you're at the bottom of your battery, it drains power as it's ramping up to get up pretty high. So I set it at about 300 feet, and that should get you over everything. But a better practice is to get out there and fly in an area where you can see your obstacles, so that if it's coming back to you because something happened, you lost a signal, you don't have to worry about it running into a tree. You want to always keep it within line of sight and above things that you might run into on the way back. And I think that's everything in the safety portion. You can hit reset all, which is going to take it back to the stock settings, and then start all over if for some reason you kind of get mixed up and want to just go back to whatever it was set from the factory. Below that you have your camera settings. Now the Anafi has an amazing camera, and you're able to go in and do things like auto record when it takes off. I had to buy something for DJI to do that, which I wish it really had, because I don't know how many times I've been out and like, oh man, I got to get this shot really quick. I get the drone out, I get it launched, and then I do the recording, and then I come home, put the card in the machine, and find out that I did not start the recording. So I like the fact that it has auto record. It also has what is called lossless zoom. Another cool feature about the Parrot Anafi compared to something like the DJI Mavic 2 zoom is the fact that it has a 2.8x zoom, so you can get in really close and keep the drone a little bit further back at a safe distance. But if you want to do lossless zoom, it's probably going to zoom in like 1.5 times. It's about half that, where you're going to be able to do a kind of a cool, I would say, effect by zooming in or out, but you're not going to lose the image is not going to degrade because you're zooming in too far. So I really like lossless zoom most of the time, but at times I will switch it into turn lossless zoom on, because I just want to get something where I'm willing to risk the quality of the image so that I can get a shot further away without having to fly all the way over to it and try to clean it up a little bit in post. You have display exposure, so it's going to show you your overexposed areas. Right now, if this were on, if my camera had overexposure on, the sky would be zebra pattern, showing that everything is too white up there, or on the ground where it was super bright. If you want to kind of get your camera set just right to know where that white balance is, and that right point where you got to tilt your camera down, usually you got to keep the sky in the top third of the screen. You can use the overexposure to kind of give you that, also with in combination with your histogram, to tell you have a nice exposed shot. Histogram is that little, I guess, I don't know, it looks like a graph thing where it moves as the light moves. If the histogram has a nice little peak in the center, that means you got a nice exposure. And again, if you want to keep the sky in the top third of the picture so that the bottom of the ground isn't totally blacked out, that should be a good way to keep your image framed up when you're doing flights. And I'll get into that in another video where I give you my tips on how to set up this camera to get the max out of it, because out of the box, while it is a good camera, I found that if I tweak it a little bit, I get some excellent video footage. And below that, anti-flicker, leave it on auto, don't worry about it. That's usually when you're flying in the US or overseas, like in Europe. The hertz rating of the electricity over there is different. So if you're using something like a GoPro that's set on US flicker rate, you will see the lights in Europe strobe. So don't worry about it, put it on auto, and it most likely will change depending on your GPS location to either US or European or wherever you're at. Or you can turn it off, and I've never had it turned off. I'm getting eaten up by flies here. I've never had it turned off, or never tried it, so I don't know what will happen if you turn it off. And the next is your network. When I first bought this drone, you had the ability to kind of like switch between 2.4 and 5.8 in manual mode. You can still do that. It was kind of crazy because there was a button to actually do it. You can still do that. Right now it's not showing me anything here. I'm not sure why, probably because the battery's so low. The drone actually probably is, the controller's not connected to the drone. But what it does is it has a range of bandwidths from 2.4 to 5.8, 5 gigahertz, and you can manually select the one that has the biggest peak and the best signal. But I usually leave it on auto unless I'm in an area like this where I'm constantly getting signal interference. There's a little bit of lag as it searches for the next channel to jump to it. Manual, if you wanted to do a manual, it'll allow you to do it a little bit faster, but auto should be perfectly fine for your new pilots. Now, I am dead right now, so I'm probably going to have to end this video because I have to go get a battery to do the rest of the video because I don't think I can get into anything else. Let's just try it to see what I can do. Okay, without having the drone on, I'll go through the rest of it. Sorry, the camera is now not working because the controller's dead. But these are your flight modes. Again, you have your, to the left, you have your, the ability to select either film mode or sport mode, which I've already explained. And then when you go to the right of that, you have the ability to select your flight mode. Right now it's in manual flight, so that's no autonomy, nothing going on, but you just doing the piloting. The next is cameraman. Cameraman is the ability to highlight yourself and then fly the drone one-handed so that you don't have to keep the camera on yourself. The camera will stay on you, and all you have to do is fly the drone forward, back, left, right, up, down with the right stick. The next is follow me, and in follow me you have, it's not going to do follow me right now because I don't have the drone connected, but follow me, you have 3 different follow me types. You have one is called, I can't remember what it's like, a chase or something, where it's going to stay behind you. You have one that's going to be orientation lock, so whichever orientation you point the drone at you, it's going to stay that way. Whichever direction you go, it's going to stay pointing at you from the side or in front of you. And then you have something called dynamic, which dynamic is, it's going to give you, I guess, a cool effect that it's going to be chasing you around, flying all around, keeping you in frame. Very cool uses of the follow me modes. Again, if you're playing for $500 bucks, you're getting a lot out of this drone because some of the earlier drones around $500 bucks didn't have follow me. Even this one didn't have follow me when it first came out. You had to buy it separately. Let's go back into flight modes again. Then you have smart droning. Now, smart droning gives you the ability to do different types of dronies. You can do orbits. You can do this thing called a parabola. A parabola, if I can show you, I can show you what the orbit looks like. I'll probably put a clip of it in right now. And parabola, I'll put a clip in of that right now. Then you have the ability to do dolly zoom. And dolly zoom, oop, these bugs are biting me. I'm almost dropped my drone. In fact, I'm going to turn the drone off now that I don't have battery power to it. You have the ability to do dolly zoom, which is going to do in, out, and then one that kind of goes out and then snaps focus back to show you like how far it is away from you. It doesn't get that far away from you, about 90 feet. You have touch to fly, which works. You go into the map, you pick a location on the map, you touch it, you hit go. You might be able to program multiple. I haven't tried multiple, but at least I tried one. You touch a location on your map and it will accurately fly to that location and then stop. So you don't actually have to learn how to fly. And that's the cool thing about drones. You don't actually know how to fly them. You can actually just take it and hit launch. It will get it up in the air. You can push it straight up in the air and bring it down if that's all you know how to do. And then hit tap to fly and it will fly in those directions. And then all you have to do kind of is learn how to do the rotation in the camera and you will be able to get the scene that you want to get. And the last one is flight planning, which is flight plan, which is the point of interest, waypoints planning. Again, I don't really use that. I'm not a fan of waypoints planning. I think it takes a lot of additional time. I know on the DJI drones, I did a lot of, I guess, videos about waypoints planning. I cannot remember the software that I used to use, but it had the ability to do waypoints planning even out of range of the controller. But if you want me to, leave some comments below and I'll do a whole video on waypoints planning for the Anafi drone. So that's all the flight modes. Now let's get into the camera settings. So with the camera settings, you have 2 different options. You have still photos and you have video modes. Now still photos, what I've noticed is that when you go into still photos, it locks the camera, so as you're looking at the screen you'll see a lot of jitter in the screen, but the shutter is working so fast, it's almost having a high shutter speed that it actually catches the image without a lot of motion blur, so don't worry about it. I know when I first got it and I wanted to take a picture, because of the stabilization of the gimbal in video mode, I didn't even notice that the drone was moving around that much. But again, this is a light drone, so it does tend to get pushed around in the wind. But when you put it in camera mode, you'll see that drift and you'll see that bounce around from the gusts of wind. But don't worry about it. It still grabs great images. Now, camera mode, you have a few different types of flight modes in the camera mode itself. So we're going to tap on the photo mode to the right of the selector icon for camera or video, and these are the different types of photos that you can take. You can take single photo, you can take burst photo, you can take bracketing photo, and bracketing photo kind of gets different exposures, and it's supposed to kind of stitch them together to give you a better image. I think when I do bracketing, for some reason it doesn't stitch them together in this. I think you got to do that in a separate application. It also doesn't stitch together time-lapse in this one either. So when you do a time-lapse, it's not actually doing a time-lapse you would normally see where it's motion. It takes a whole bunch of photos at different intervals and the intervals that you select, and then you have to stitch those together outside in a different software. It doesn't do it like the DJI software where it'll stitch together those photos for you and create a video. Timer mode, which is going to take a video, it's going to take a photo at whatever interval you want on the timer. Panorama is pretty cool because this one actually takes true 360 panoramas. Now when I say true 360, remember the Anafi has the ability to point 180 degrees straight up in the air. So on most drones where it's only going to be able to give you maybe horizontal or horizon and probably a little bit above it, if you do a 360 with this, you'll be able to do a true 360 rotation when you put that into a 360, I guess, viewing software. And then you got time-lapse, and again, time-lapse doesn't actually do a time-lapse. It does photos at intervals, and it takes I guess enough of them so that you can stitch it together in your own software later. I don't really like it because it doesn't do the stitching for me, and I don't like doing stuff in post, but I mean I don't really use time-lapse that much either. It does have hyperlapse, by the way. So hyperlapse is like the time-lapse that you would expect. It's actually the same thing that you're expecting from time-lapse. You're getting a video from those photos being taken versus just individual stills. And then it has something called GPS lapse way to the right. And GPS lapse is it's actually a weird, I guess, option that I've never seen on any other drone before. It takes an interval based on how far you select in the program. So if you select every 16 feet, it takes a photo every 16 feet that this drone moves. Tried it, didn't like it. Don't know the, I guess, use of it. Maybe if you're chasing something and you wanted to just take stills, it would work, but it doesn't make any sense for me to use, and I'm a video guy. I'm not a photo guy, so haven't really used it. Now to the right of that, you have the ability to select the type of photo that you want to take. You can select, well actually a drop down again, you can go into auto or pro mode. Most of the time I try to use pro as much as possible, but every now and then I don't feel like dealing with settings, so I just drop it into auto. You have the ability to change your exposure limits there. You have the ability to lock your auto exposure and tap on the screen to get the correct exposure. You have HDR. And you have the ability to select different color profiles. But to the right, across the very bottom of the screen, you have the ability to select the type of photo you want to take. So you have the ability to take JPEGs in rectangular or wide. You can save them in RAW format with just rectangular photos or RAW format with wide photos. Now the Anafi drone is able to take 20 megapixel stills in wide and 16 megapixel stills in rectangular. So while, you know, again, for $500, if you want to get 20 megapixels, you're looking at something like the DJI Mavic Pro 2, which has a 1-inch sensor and 20 megapixels. Even though this has a smaller sensor, it's still able to take 20 megapixel stills. And to the right of that, you have your shutter button, which is pretty much going to show you the amount of photos you've taken or the time of which the interval of photos you're taking in any GPS mode. Now, if we go back to the selector again, if I go into video, again, you get to go into video modes and you can select the type of videos that you can shoot. Now, the cool thing about the Anafi drone, a little bit confusing at times because you have to remember what you did, but the cool thing about the Anafi drone is you're able to combine like flight modes with video modes. So if I wanted to do a follow with a slow motion, it will work, right? So I don't have to pilot the drone myself. I just select follow and then make sure slow motion is turned on, and it will follow me while it's shooting slow motion video. I don't think I could have done that with the DJI drones, and I remember all the flight modes, and I don't remember being able to do that. You have the ability to shoot cinema, and when you put it in cinema, what it does is it switches directly into 4K at 24 frames per second. If you want to get a couple little quick clips at, like I said, 1 gigabyte per minute, you can just click it on cinema mode, and it will jump straight to it, so you don't have to go in and select those settings, resolution and frame rate settings, I guess, manually. The next one is hyperlapse. Hyperlapse is going to give you that time lapse that we were talking about, that true time lapse where it's a bunch of photos stitched together. In this hyperlapse, you got to select, you got to play with a little bit to see how fast you want it to actually take the pictures, but you're able to pilot the drone while you're taking the hyperlapse. So What I find works best is that you take the film mode and dial everything down to very, very slow, and then you put it in hyperlapse, and it just creeps along taking a slow motion video. And you don't, if you put it on sport mode with hyperlapse, the video is almost unusable because it's just everything moving around so fast, moving around and then shooting and darting around like a dragonfly, so you don't want to use that. Slow motion, and then you got high frame rate. Now high frame rate, the Anafi drone is able to shoot 1080 video at 60 frames per second, not 4K, but 1080 video at 60 frames per second. But for some reason they didn't, I don't know why they made a second mode for that. They could have just left it 1080 and then you can go over and select 60 frames per second. They put high frame rate, and I'm only assuming it's because they want you to be able to get in and do a one button hit without having to go through and select two things manually like they did cinema mode. And if you wanted to, like I said, if you want to get up and do a quick video, you can start, you hit high frame rate and it's at 1080 60 and you're good to go. And that is everything on the video flight modes or video I guess programming. Train's going by behind me. Let me let that go by while I go over and click on to the right of the video mode. You have the ability to go in again and select either your color profile, your frame rate, your resolution, and set the drone up in a way that you want to shoot your video. What you see now, because the drone isn't connected, it's actually showing you the interface when you're using the phone to pilot the drone. It's on screen, thumb to touch points, where when you touch the screen, you don't actually have to touch it on the centers of the controllers. Wherever you touch the screen, if it's on the left or right, if you move your thumbs in a direction, it will pilot the drone. And it actually works pretty well. I got it, and even in this highly kind of like Wi-Fi saturated area, I got it about 100 feet up and 100 feet away. So if you're taking this thing out and you don't want to take this controller with you, I think the cell phone feature is a pretty cool feature. I actually like that about the original DJI Mavic Pro. And I kind of hated the fact that DJI releases new drones and it didn't have that same feature. Every now and then, like this, controller's dead, I would be able to still continue this video because I could connect to the phone, which maybe I should have done when it died. But that's pretty much like everything. You have the ability to touch the screen and do certain things too, like you could on the DJI drones. Like if I wanted to adjust the camera, I can do it here on the right by touching the screen and sliding my finger up and down. And then on the left side of the screen, if I touch the screen, I have the ability to, it's not doing it right now, but on the left side of the screen, you have the ability to do your zoom and pull out your in and out with your zoom. You have the ability to switch from your, I guess, your on-screen display, heads-up display, or live stream to the map, so you can see where you're at on the map, and that's when you're using things like the tap to fly. So other than that, everything else is pretty simple, like I said, to use. There's not a lot to the drone, not hard to learn. The controller is very easy too. On the DJI drone, it's kind of intimidating sometimes. There are buttons that I could not remember what they did, and it took me a while to figure out what did I program this thing to do. I got a roller here, I got a scroller here, I got rollers here, I got buttons on the back. I don't have any buttons on the back of this. I got two on the back here, which I know what they do. They're very easy to get to. This one resets the camera. This one starts the shutter. This one zooms in, and then this one adjusts the pitch of the camera. I mean, very simple, very easy to use. So if you got this drone, it wouldn't take you like a month like it took me to go through and Google, because you don't get like any manual with a DJI drone. You got to go in and Google or pull up the manual on DJI's website and read every, I guess, option and figure out how to use it. But I don't know, man. This is probably a pretty freaking long video. I'm up to 28 minutes. It's a full-length, full-feature video here, and that's pretty much everything you need to know about the Anafi drone and what it can do. And again, I think it's a very capable drone for $500 bucks-ish, $600 if you get another battery, maybe $650. Definitely less than the Mavic Air. So apparently this camera stops at 28 minutes. Not sure if my screen is still recording, but yeah, I think it's worth the money. So hey, thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting the channel. I'm going to shoot an additional video because, like I said, this one's like 20-something minutes plus now, going on 30 minutes. I'm going to shoot an additional video on the best way I find to set up the camera on the Anafi drone so that you get the best video quality. So stay tuned for that. I'll get back to you soon. Talk to you later. Bye.